there's so much out of control. Like, I mean, we're talking about COVID. Like, Rudy Gobert, for instance, hasn't even 100% recovered, and he was like patient zero. Like,
Yeah,
he shut down America.
I think that's a great time to switch over to the NBA. Yeah, Rudy Gobert, who is the player that shut down the NBA and ultimately sports because he tested positive for coronavirus in Oklahoma City, he is still having issues with his sense of smell. He tested positive in March, and it's near the end of June now, and 3 months later, he still says his smell isn't back to 100%. That's scary.
Yeah, no, it's definitely raises some eyebrows. And you mentioned Wilson Chandler was gonna sit out today. Like, you get why people are sitting out. Like, it's just not worth it to them. To others, they don't think it's as big of a risk, and that's like what you have here is everyone's got to make the best decision for them.
Now, here is a weird question, though. Joking, obviously, but Rudy Gobert having a lack of a sense of smell right now. NBA, you are up against some big, smelly guys in the heat of the moment of a basketball game. Come that fourth quarter, no one smells that great. Is that a little bit of a competitive advantage for Gobert?
Well, it's a disadvantage when he goes back to Paris, though. So, like,
Yes.
he can't smell any of the flowers or the croissants. So it's like you win some, you lose some.
Yes. The NBA, they are also still working on their active rosters. I mean, the NBA wanted the players to announce by June 24th. Most teams we saw were saying July 1st is their specific deadline, so we're going to be coming up in the next couple of days getting these final NBA rosters, it seems. But the NBA has some interesting questions when you start looking at the upcoming season and the futures that there are that are available. If a player does test positive for coronavirus, I mean, MLB, we were just talking about, they have 60-man rosters that they just announced. That's much bigger in size than the NBA. If an MLB player tests positive, they go on a coronavirus specific injured reserved list and they're out for an undefined amount of time. The NBA, those rosters aren't as big. What impact can the coronavirus have for some of these teams if one or two players were to get hit? And who would you say are the most balanced teams that would be able to sustain something like that? So, for example, I thought of this and I was thinking if James Harden or Russell Westbrook ends up unfortunately catching coronavirus, I don't like the Rockets' chances. I don't know how deep they are beyond their two superstars. You look at the Lakers, though, I think LeBron or AD would be able to carry the weight while the other one is out. I think that there are going to be coronavirus cases that pop up during these seasons. We've seen it with the UFC, we've seen it with golf. We're going to see it with these other sports. It's just what's going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when and how bad does it happen. It's going to pop up and in some way, shape, or form. And I'm kind of curious of the betting impacts of that on teams if you're looking at futures of teams that have a run at a championship or what have you, and what teams from top to bottom seem to be the most even that they'd be able to plug and replace injuries and things of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, it's probably why I'm not gonna bet very many futures at all this year, right? It's
Yes.
like there's so much out of your control. Like, I mean, you don't even really normally handicap like a quarterback injury in the NFL, right? Like, you're like, oh, if everyone's healthy, like, do I think this team hits this win? Like, you're not like, oh, I think their quarterback's going down in week 4. Like, here's $100 on the under. Like, no
Yes.
one does that. But I think I would stick to the game to game betting, but a team that I like in the East that's pretty, I don't know, spread out depth wise. The Sixers have probably the best starting five in all of basketball, maybe up there. It hasn't all clicked, but honestly, this hiatus might have helped it because tensions might have been running high in the locker room. So I don't know how they'll come out, but just pure talent, their starting five can go 5-on-5 with anyone. So if they were to lose a starter, they'd still have four very high end starters on their roster.
I think the Sixers are an interesting team. I think the Celtics are an interesting team that also hasn't quite lived up to their potential yet this year, and they could benefit from this time off potentially. I'll be very curious to see as these teams get more back into their training camps and they start their formal practices and all that, and there's more
I
contact
mean,
and
I'm sorry to cut you off. Toronto as well is obviously a team that spreads out their talent very
yes,
well. So
yes, you are right.
I
Toronto's a great
think
one to
I
throw in there
think
as
these
well.
Eastern Conference teams probably more so. The Western Conference teams maybe a little more top heavy.
Yes, and I'll be very interested to see as these teams start their training camps and their formal facilities leading up to the season with more interactions with more people. What is that going to mean in terms of cases? We've seen the NBA's coronavirus case rate is around 5.3%. I mean, that's lower than the United States right now, but it's not as low as, let's say, the MLS, who's gearing to get back in Orlando as well, who's down at 2.7% right now.
Yeah, that seems like a good number, 2.7%.
Yes. But the NBA, they have some interesting things to look at in terms of betting. We have the futures in terms of the NBA champion. I heard something on sports radio the other day that actually did kind of make a lot of sense to me. Is we've never seen a fully healthy LeBron in the NBA playoffs. He's gonna be as close to that as he has ever been because he has had this long hiatus to recover from whatever nagging injuries he may have had this season. A fully healthy LeBron and a fully healthy Anthony Davis is scary for the rest of the league. It is terrifying, even at LeBron's current age.
Yeah, I mean to be honest with you, it's kind of why I'm bullish on the Rockets. I think Russell Westbrook and James Harden are two of the better isolation basketball players in the league. And with COVID going around in Florida, I'd want as few people touching the basketball as possible.
Well, then James Harden might be your most friendly player.
You know what? It's not fair. James Harden gets a lot of assists too, but yes, he dribbles the heck out of the basketball. As my guy Bob Knight would say, he's dribbling the air out of the ball. But he's an elite scorer in this league, and he does it in a variety of ways. Excuse me. He can hit the three. He can finish at the rim. He gets fouled, and those skills will translate whether you've been playing every day for the last 6 months or you got a 3 month break. Like, those are valuable skills. Russell Westbrook, he doesn't shoot the three as well, but he, will take an open three. He can occasionally make it. He can absolutely finish at the rim, and he's not afraid to go to the free throw line either.
And the strengths in James Harden's skill set, those are all things that can be worked on by yourself in
Yes.
a gym without players. So he could have just been working on his dribbling and his 3-point shooting and his catch and release and things of that nature. That he doesn't really need to run a 3-on-3 or a team practice to get reps in with. He can work on his ball handling by himself. He can work on his outside shots by himself. So that's a little bit of an interesting takeaway from it as well. The NBA definitely has a lot of questions as we look ahead towards what this season could be, because I see there more likely being a surprise in the MLB, like we were talking about, than there being a surprise in the NBA in terms of a team sneaking into the playoffs that necessarily shouldn't, or even taking a deep run at it.